Just when you thought Gordon Murray and his special vehicles division had hit peak car with the S1 LM, they go and launch this. It's called the S1 and it might be perfect. Coming up, Gordon himself gets into the details and backstory of the S1, but first, a quick refresher on the S1 LM revealed exactly a year ago. A modern interpretation of the McLaren F1 GTR that won Le Mans in 1995. It's the ultimate expression of the T50's central seating position, manual gearbox, screaming V12 in the back philosophy. A road legal but race inspired V12 manual supercar limited to just 5 units. The first of which sold for over $20 million when it was choppered into the Vegas GP at the end of 2025. Lucky they didn't drop it. In a nutshell then, the S1 is a more road touring focused take on the S1 LM. So it gets a tweaked version of the S1 LM's chassis, and it does away with the more hardcore aero elements that add downforce on the S1 LM. Here the focus is more on mechanical grip. So gone is the rear wing from the S1 LM, the big side skirts, the big front splitter, leaving behind a shape that is the definition of purity. Now clearly this is a more direct homage or reimagination or whatever you want to call it of the McLaren F1, which immediately catapults it into the upper echelons of supercar royalty. And get this, every single one of these carbon panels on this car is different to the S1 LM. That's just bonkers. And there's loads of significant design details that are different to the S1 LM, like the headlights, completely different. You'll remember the S1 LM had that thin LED strip. Here though, we've got these lights lower down in the front bumper, embedded into these air intakes. Now that is a direct reference to Gordon Murray's 1992 Monaco McLaren F1 concept car, as is the design of the wheels. And now for the really good news. Instead of just 5, they're building 64 of these. Henry Ford, eat your heart out. For reference, they built 100 T50s and 25 track-only T50Ss. Unfortunately, all the S1s are sold out for an undisclosed price, which means many millions. Okay, so we'll get to the astonishing Cosworth V12 engine in just a minute, but first let's talk about the changes under the skin that give this car its more touring character. So overall, same width as the S1 LM, same track, same width tyres, same suspension geometry, but here we've got 10mm more ride height. I still think this is a fraction lower than T50, but you shouldn't have any problem with speed bumps. The dampers are more compliant. You've got a switchable power steering system now and redesigned doors with actual droppable glass windows. The luxury. There's bespoke active Aero too, integrated into the rear diffuser. Okay, so let's talk about the engine, shall we? Like the S1 LM, it gets the larger 4.2 litre naturally aspirated Cosworth V12. Still revs to 12,100 RPM, which is going to be one of the greatest sounds on the planet. In terms of power, 690 horsepower, torque, 367 pounds-feet, but that torque has been retuned to deliver that from just 2,500 RPM. The gearbox, 6-speed manual, but as standard on the S1, you get the longer touring 6th ratio, and the engine bay is going to be high art, polished Inconel exhaust and 24 karat gold heat shielding. I think I just need a minute. Right, let's talk to Gordon, shall we? Gordon, this is quite the thing. I thought you'd peaked this time last year with the S1 LM, but I don't know, it might be even better. This. It's
well, we had so much interest in the S1 LM, and of course there were only a handful of cars made. That was customer commission, and so this is also from customer pressure because everybody loved that car so much, and a lot of people were saying, "Well, imagine it without the aerodynamics," because not everybody likes the boy racer wings and spoilers and splitters and things, and that's how it all started, really. But so
this wasn't strictly in the plan when you started working on S1 LM. This kind of became an idea that
we have two main streams in in special vehicles, and that was the plan right from day one. We have whatever customers want, commissions basically, and then we do a few wacky cars that I've always wanted to do. And a very good example was last year with the S1 LM was a customer commission.
Yeah.
And the Le Mans GTR was the first car that I've always wanted to do, like a long tail car. Those cars just don't fit the GMA portfolio.
Sure.
We have quite sort of strict rules, is perhaps a little strong, but we have quite a strong format for cars that we do under the GMA banner. And SV is just giving us a license to have fun, basically.
Yeah,
So
that's what we all want. So when you were first developing T50, I remember all those years ago, you took me into invited us to your office and you said, look, I've got an idea. And there was the kind of blueprint of T50, blew our socks off. But I assume S1 and S1 LM, were they in the back of your mind, this kind of more limited, more overt
Not really.
F1 reference?
The S1 LM was 100% inspired by a customer's love of the original LM.
Yeah.
And that customer had a vision to do a modern interpretation of the car, not a copy.
Yeah.
I don't think we'd even with SV we would never do.
I struggle for words. I sometimes say homage or a tribute
Yeah,
or interpretation. I think is the best.
Exactly.
Probably
It's
the
a bit
best
like the Le Mans GTR is my tribute to all the lovely long tail cars from Le Mans.
Yeah, maybe we don't need to label it. Maybe we just need to enjoy it and have fun. You know?
Absolutely. So it's sort of it was customer pressure again, really. You know.
Yeah. Now I remember again when we first saw T50 and we were walking around your original McLaren F1, and it was hilarious because you went around and basically pointed out all the things that you didn't like or that were rubbish or you would have improved. No, that gives me sleepless nights. So you're very open about the fact that the F1 is far from perfect. Is this now Gordon Murray's perfect road car?
Pretty much. I mean, it's the same as T50 and the F1. It's the same thing because everything we've learned and everything we've improved on 50 over the original F1, and that's 30 odd years. All that knowledge and that background knowledge gets carried over to all these cars. So whatever car we do in SV benefits from everything we've learned on 50 and 33.
Yeah, and clearly the SV cars are good business. You know, you sold the first S1 LM, chopped it into Vegas, over $20 million, a spectacular moment. So moving forward, is the kind of plan more SV cars? Because as you said yourself, you've got this creative license, or
it's limited by the size of SV.
Okay.
It's quite a small part of the group, really. It's not a very big team, and that will always limit the amount of cars we can do.
Okay.
And also, I don't think we need to go crazy. We just, if we've got a very good reason to do a car, or a customer has a very good reason to do a car, we'll look at the overall picture and see how long it's going to take and how it fits in. But
the plans, obviously T50 and the T50 family, T33 and its variants are coming down the line, but the sort of intention is to have more of those GMA cars sort of in the future.
Yeah, I mean we're currently working on what is known as Project 3. Which is the one thing we promised people is that we wouldn't just keep rebodying the same car like some other companies do. And so when we do 3 variants. Our formula is quite simple. We do 3 variants on a platform, and then we do a brand new platform, and it's always a new platform.
Yeah.
So we're not just regurgitating the same stuff. And of course, that new platform can then form the basis for more SV cars. So it's a formula that's it just perpetuates itself, really.
Yeah. What I wouldn't give to see your filing cabinet full of ideas for what else you can do on this platform, the T33 platform, and of course whatever platforms come down the line. Maybe I'll see if I can get some red wine down you later and convince you. Anyway, right, now the details on this car. Nobody is and can be across the details quite like you, so I just thought it'd be fun to have a little walk around, point out your favourite bits, maybe a bit of the reasoning of why you made these decisions. I know there's some lovely kind of nods to the to history, the 92 Monaco show car and a few of the design elements, but just go for it, go where you will. And
yeah, well, one of my favourite parts of this car are the wheels. Funny enough, the one thing we do well is wheels. I think, you know, it sounds a bit big-headed, but 50, 33, and I've just finished designing Project 3's wheels as well, and it's quite difficult. It sounds simple, but it's quite difficult to make a wheel that's different from anybody else. And these, well, I particularly like these because they harp back to the original, but they're much more modern, and I hate wheels that aren't true to engineering forms. So, you know, you get nothing. It gets me going more than spokes that get wider as they get towards, which is the opposite of what an engineer would do. You know, they go wide at the hub and then go narrow to the top. And
of course, that's wasted material. That's unnecessary weight, and I know that.
Or curly, you know, turbine spokes and all that rubbish. I hate that.
So it's an interesting, because it's an intersection of, you know, art and design and engineering, which is really where you like to sort of exist. That point where it's beautiful, but it works perfectly.
Yeah, and the other thing that's difficult with, because this layout has the oil cooling at the rear of the car, unlike 50. This is more like 50S, with the cooling at the rear, and to get enough air into that, and that's what that secondary duct is in the door, which I think works particularly well on this car, and then you've got this sort of 33 type ram induction, which is fixed straight to the engine, rather than part of the monocoque like 50. So it's actually got elements, just what we were talking about earlier, everything we've learned on 50, 33, and even 50S.
Yeah.
This has got elements.
And is that part of the fun? Because the amount of work you put in getting the, you know, T50, T33 project off the ground from you know, scratch, essentially, and now you've got some elements. You've got T50S, you've got T50, you've got 2 versions of this engine with, well, probably 3 with the T33, and you can start to have a play with these elements, and how do we combine them, and how do we tweak them, and how do we create different characters?
How do they best fit this particular car?
Yeah.
You know, for example.
And so with this one, just in terms of character, it's obviously more road focused, more touring than the S1 LM, but where would you put it? So T50, is it more hardcore than T50?
It's designed to still have slightly sharper dynamics.
Okay.
But it's going to be much more comfortable. So this is genuinely a road car sort of thing. Yeah. Whereas the S1 LM is more. It's not a track car by any stretch of the imagination, but it's more extreme in the way it's set up. So, but that work is all done during development rather than design.
Yeah.
And in design, the amount of compliance we have in the suspension is pretty much standard. The engine mounting, NVH will assess when we start the development and see how much of that we want or don't want. So a lot of it's done during the vehicle development rather than the design phase.
Okay. And the engine, have you driven the 4.2 yet?
I haven't.
Does it exist in any prototypes or mules yet?
Yes, it does. Yes, yeah. but I haven't yet. No. But yeah, it's obviously very different from 50, which is nice because it's a differentiator for this car.
Yeah.
And these are the things I can never get away from. These sort of the chimneys, the sausages, just about everything I do. I have these 1960s slots in the cars. And even Project 3, we're doing Project 3 Aero and cooling at the moment, and they've appeared in that too.
Sausages, can't get away from them.
Yeah.
But interesting, this car obviously, the S1 LM had the fixed wing and the sort of front splitter and the kind of more obvious downforce aerodynamics. So how does this produce the downforce? I assume it has less downforce than.
Yes, it does, but it's still got the ground effect, just like 50 and 33 have. But to balance the front and rear and get the centre pressure in the right place, it's got active aero, which of course you need.
Yeah.
Just like 33. 33's got active aero, and without that you can't get enough downforce on the front axle because the ground effect centre of pressure is quite a long way forward.
And so that just the active aero in the
Yep.
diffuser helps to be able to control that.
Yep.
Wow, spectacular. And I have to put, oh, actually the interior. What can you tell me about the interior? Is it very different to T50?
Once again, totally inspired by customer vision, basically.
Mm-hmm.
It adheres to all 7 principles from the point of view of, you know, all the controls are analog. There's no touch screens. You've got the lovely analog tacho.
Mm-hmm.
And just the 2 little information screens, but everything again is analog and rotary,
Mm-hmm.
just like 33 and 50. I don't see that's something we'll ever move away from. I hope, anyway.
Well, why would you?
It's just,
Well, the other
and we
option
get
is
a lot of owners coming back to us
Mm.
of all the cars that are out there now. A lot of owners coming back and going, thank goodness you haven't got a touch screen. You know?
So it doesn't have, does it have any screen in it?
It has 2 little screens.
Yeah.
The right-hand one is infotainment and sat-nav and anything on your phone, basically.
Yeah.
And the left-hand one is car information, and it's just got a little button that you scroll through on the to get the different pages on the screen. And just like our other cars, the information is very simple, very clear. The menus are quite intuitive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't have to go through layers and layers of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
And talk me with this car, 64, am I right? 60,
Yeah.
64 versions of this.
In
So
total, yeah.
a lot more than S1LM, and that was just
Once
limited
again,
to 5.
that's customer pressure.
Mm.
It's, you know, it would have been nice to limit it to less, but I think we would have had a lot of upset people.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it was, I mean, it's not a mile away from 100 T50, so it's quite a big production run.
It's sort of getting, for me, a little bit uncomfortably close, actually, to the 100. It's not what we intended for SV, but
Yeah.
well, I think this particular motor car, because of what it represents, I think it's worth making an exception for this car, because it's never going to happen again. You know, we won't
is a
make,
good point.
This is it. You
Also, just to put it in perspective, 64 isn't a huge number of cars. It's just in the
So
context of
if you're one of the lucky 64 people,
Yep.
this is essentially a once in a lifetime. It's not going to
Exactly.
happen.
And I
again.
assume it wasn't very hard to find those customers.
They sold pretty quickly. Yes, actually.
That must be a good feeling.
Yeah.
Well, it shows you're doing something right, and
Yeah.
from where you started with GMA, you know, it's come.
But
come a
I
long way.
see this as a real one-off opportunity, because we're not going to do something that even, you know, resembles this in future. This is it, basically.
This is it, and I have to put you on the spot and ask you. This is the big final question. Are you going to have one yourself?
I would love one, actually.
Yeah.
If there's a prototype left, I'll probably buy one of those.
Okay.
Yes.
And if it had to be S1LM or S1,
No, it would be this one.
it would be S1.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, Gordon, it's just so much fun. I'll probably see you here next year, and you'll
Yeah.
have something else.
That's the
completely
one
wild and
good thing that
crazy.
came out of chemotherapy, because I
Yeah.
thought of this and got going on structuring that company,
Mhm.
picking the team, and thinking about the first couple of cars, all during chemo. So it helped me get through it, really. So
Wow, and it was so kept you focused, kept you busy.
yeah,
Wow. Well, look, it's absolutely spectacular. It's sort of the car that, as a car journalist, you dream about happening. You maybe suggest in an interview, and then you sort of laugh and go, "Well, you know, one day," and it's actually here.
Here it is.
Here it is. It exists.
Yeah.
What a thing. Maybe we'll get to drive it one day.
I'm sure
Do
you
you
will.
reckon?
I'm sure you will.
Maybe you're one.
Yeah.
Yeah. We got that on tape, haven't we? Yeah. Good.